Welcome back here to Mighty Mac on YouTube. Once again, if you guys like the content provided, be sure to subscribe today to the channel so you don't miss any of the upcoming content for the final 3 races of the NHRA Countdown to the Championship. We are live here in Dallas. We'll be covering the 4 Performance Las Vegas Nationals from home, and then we will be live in Pomona for the NHRA Finals. So if you want every update on what's going on in the countdown, then subscribe today so you don't miss any of the upcoming content. And without further ado, let's get into the video. Well, I said last night that after Friday night qualifying, there's 2 big names missing from the field, that being Kalitta and Tony Stewart. I said then that one of those 2 names will not be in the field for Sunday eliminations. Boy, was I wrong, because while I was correct about the heat being high, I'm from the Midwest, where if the heat is high, so is the humidity. When you have high humidity, that chokes the engines on these cars, it makes it impossible for them to get down the racetrack at a fast ET. However, down here in the state of Texas and across the South, while there is high heat, the humidity isn't high. So rather than the engines being choked, you just have a really slick and challenging racetrack. And that is something that the best tuners in the categories are able to tune around and make the cars go faster. That way they can make the field. That's exactly what happened. Both Kalitta and Tony Stewart will race Sunday here at the Texas Fall Nationals here at the Texas Motorplex. However, there were also some changes within the midfield as well across all 4 pro categories. The names on the top of the sheets did not change, but the ETs for some of them did, because of the fact that they were able to tune around, and the likes of NHRA were able to improve. Matt Smith jumped up to the runner-up spot after having a disappointing Friday afternoon. He improves after having a bad run in Q3, backs up in Q4, bumps it all the way up to the top half. Throughout the entire field, you saw some major runs being pulled out, which we'll talk about later, because that, I think, is going to affect how some of you guys are going to pick your drag racing bracket bonanza winners, because you may look at who's on top, but what I will say and recommend, that does not represent who is going to be the fastest car on race day, because a lot of those times were set on the Friday night in the cool weather conditions, and it does not represent who are going to be the fastest guys in the heat of the day come tomorrow, because you're looking at high 90s. It is going to be a blistering hot racetrack. That's something that NHRA and Greg Anderson talked about with the hot slick racetracks, trying to get these things off the line before they spin the tires, and that is something that is going to challenge every single tuner in the pits come Sunday morning. So it's going to be a very interesting rounds of eliminations as we get set to see who is going to be the actual contenders for these championships come the final 2 races of the season. We have a lot to go over, so let's look into your qualifying results here for the NHRA Texas Fall Nationals. In pro stock motorcycle, like I said, NHRA remains #1 qualifier, but he did in fact lower the ET. A 6.749 set during Q3 sees him hold #1 honors. He had the fastest runs in Q1, Q2, and Q3, but had the 3rd fastest in Q4, so was not able to maximize on points. Who did get the fastest run in Q4 was Matt Smith with a 6.756, who bumps him with the 2nd. Hector Anna Jr. bumped himself up to 3rd with a 7.73 in Q3. John Evaristo falls to 4th. Steve Johnson was probably the biggest surprise of qualifying today across all 4 pro categories, except for one name, which you hear about later. He ran a 6.780 in Q3, and that turned a lot of heads. He backed up in Q4 with another impressive run. He holds on to 5th. Angie Smith 6th. John Hall 7th. Richard Gatson in 8th. Chase Van Sant in 9th. He had an improvement in Q3 and Q4, but not enough to move him up the field. Mark Ingerson down in 10th. Chris Bosick had a problem with the starting line in Q3, unable to make the run. He falls back to 11th. Gino Scally 12th. Ron Torno with an impressive run in the heat on Saturday afternoon. Sees him bump up to 13th with a 6.932. Ryan Ayler 14th. Malcolm Phillips in 15th. In pro stock, Greg Anderson holds on to the #1 spot with a 6.524. Eric Anders 2nd with a 5.26. David Quadro with an impressive run up in 3rd with a 5.32. Aaron Stanfield down in 4th. Dallas Glenn 5th. Jet Coughlin in 6th. Matt Hartford 7th. Fernando Quadro Jr. rounds out in 8th. Jerry Tucker down in 9th. Cammy Caruso 10th. Corey Reed 11th. Troy Coughlin Jr. in 12th. Mason McGahey in 13th. His father, Chris McGahey, in 14th. Christian Quadra down in 15th. And Eric Latino rounds out the field in 16th. He will not compete on Sunday. Therefore, Greg Anderson gets the coveted bye run. The cars who did not qualify, that being Derek Kramer, Kenny Delco, and Derek Reese, respectively. In funny car, Austin Prock holds on to number 1 honors with an A1 3-set back on Friday night. Matt Hagen rounds out 2nd, Jack Beckman 3rd, Blake Alexander holds on to 4th, Ron Capps down in 5th, Daniel Wilkerson continues an impressive run up in the 6th position, Cruz Pedregon 7th, Paulie rounds out in 8th. In the bottom half of the field, you're going to find Dale Creasy Jr. For some reason, his name is Peanut. I'm not sure why. I'm going to try and figure that out by the end of the weekend. He's in 9th. Alexis Joria in 10th. I said Steve Johnson was the big surprise in qualifying with his improvement. Well, the guy who holds that top honor is Dave Richards. Had another best run of his career. He ran a 3.991 on Friday night. On the last session of qualifying in the heat of the day, runs a 3.92.0. So for both Dale Creasy Jr. and Dave Richards, 2 drivers who a year ago on Friday night had both their cars totaled and looked like they were done racing funny cars for the rest of their lives, come back a year later and improve from that point, running career best ETs. J.R. Todd qualifies 12th, Bob Tasker 3rd and 13th, Chad Green 14th, Bobby Bodie in 15th, Terry Haddock holds on to the final spot in 16th with a 4.10. Cars not making the field, 17th, Jeff Deal with a 4.129. Chris King with a 4.131 ends up 18th. And for the second time this season, after the Brainerd DQ, Buddy Hall will round out last on the scoring list with a 4.168, not running on Sunday. In top fuel, Brittany Forrest gets number 1 qualifier, the 50th of her career with a 3.667. Sean Reed holds on to 2nd with a 6.76. Steve Torrance 3rd, Sean Langdon 4th, Antron Brown 5th, Billy Torrance up in 6th, Clay Melican 7th, Ida Zetterstrom rounds out in 8th. In the bottom half of the field, Tony Schumacher, who is my early pick to win this event right now, because while he is not on the top of the scoring list, if you look across the runs, he is the only person I think who has ran 3.7s in almost every single run. He smoked tires in Q3, ran a 4.0, but in the 3 rest of the sessions, he ran a 3.7. I think he is going to be the dark horse going into Sunday, and he is going to be, right now, my pick to win the top fuel categories. He tries to win another incredible 9th championship. In 10th, Doug Kalitta bumped his way up into the field in Q3, improved with a 7.75 in Q4 to move up into 10th. Josh Hart 11th. Justin Ashley, who only ran in Q1, runs in 12th with a 7.78. Jasmine Salinas 13th. Krista Baldwin 14th. Tony Stewart bumped his way into the show on the last run of the day. A 3.816 sees him qualified 15th. Was very frustrated after today's actions. He did not want to do any interviews whatsoever. He just wanted to go home and be done with this because he is not happy with the performance of that car and himself and his team. Spencer Hyde 16th holds on to the last qualifying spots. The 3 drivers not in the show: Scott Palmer, Cameron Ferre, and Keeban Kinsley. As always, we do have highlights courtesy of NHRA and Fox, and we again get to hear from the drivers from their post-race media availabilities.
Oh, Gianna's bike really moving around way over out of the left side of the groove. She sticks with it. 674. Gage Herrera. 202 miles per hour. Gage Herrera with the best run of the round again. Will she be evicted on the final run of Pro Stock? They both have a chance. Greg's got a good shot. Greg got there. 6:52.4208.99 by 2 thousandths of a second. Greg Anderson says, "Hey, Double E, I hope you enjoyed the ride, but it's time to get off." Greg Anderson takes HendrickCars.com to the number 1 spot here on a Friday night. Alexis out of shape. 381, Austin Prock. Oh my. 333 miles per hour, and Austin Prock just took the air out of the Texas Motorplex. PBR Teams Championship next week in Las Vegas. Top fuel car right now in Dallas. Look at Brittany, 366. Look at the speed, 338 miles per hour. Brittany Force yards the field in ET and in speed. The second fastest run of the season in top fuel.
You're talking about the wind conditions. I was sitting in the grandstand for Q3 and I saw a lot of bikes on the starting line just start bucking like a bronco as soon as they left the tree. With the wind and also the challenges of trying to maneuver that bike off the starting line, just how tough was it today to make everything go right to lower that ET?
It was tough for sure. I mean, I went up there a few times with Gino and Richard. I mean, luckily I was towards the end of the pack, and the track was definitely a little on the greasy side, and that hurts us. You know, with us being 660 pounds, we got to hit the bike so hard to get them moving. So we were kind of shocked that we were able to go 105s on that surface, but you know, it was definitely a challenge. You know, everyone's shooting for the 60 foot right now, trying to get the momentum going, because that's what gets you the good ET. So that's why you see, you know, a couple bikes bucking or spin the tire, go towards the center line or the wall, or vice versa. Everyone's just shooting for the first 60 to 330 feet right now to get the ET. I mean, like Steve Johnson, he threw one out there in Q3, and he had a better 60, or the 60 wasn't as good as mine, but 330 was better. So it just goes to show, you know, everyone's going for that first 100 feet, and when it gets hot out, it definitely gets challenging.
You said last night that with the heat on Sunday, a lot of teams are going to be gritting their teeth trying to figure out how to get the car from A to B. You said in the past, however, that you and your team look forward to and thrive at when these conditions are like this, when they're this hot. With this probably being, I believe, the second hottest race that we've had behind Virginia, does this have you licking your chops going to Sunday, seeing what you guys can do?
It does. For whatever reason, our race team has been stronger versus the other big group, the hotter the racetracks have been. So we need to capitalize when that happens, because you sure can't count on that happening when we go out west. It could be 50, 60 degrees when we go out west and fall back the other way where, you know, they've got the benefits. So you got to make the hay when the sun shines. And this is what we consider our best case scenario for us to, you know, shine. So we better make the most of it.
So last night when you set the lowest ET of the season, everybody in the grandstands had their jaw dropped. Your father on the starting line talked about how good that run is, and you get out of the car and start complaining about the mistakes you had made in the staging process. Over the course of the season, I've started to notice that you've become a little bit of your own worst critic, where even when you're doing these incredible things, you still find that one thing that holds you back from being happy with that run. Has that kind of helped you perfected your driving style as you've gone through this season?
Yeah, well, I'm a proc. If you know my dad, he's the exact same way. You know, as a kid, he'd run, you know, he'd set the national record, and I'd go up there and, good job, Dad, and he'd go, well, it could have run quicker, it didn't do this, and it didn't do that, you know. So it's just, you know, the mentality I've been raised around, and I strive for perfection, and every time I get out of the race car, 99% of the time I find something I did wrong, and I try not to make that mistake again. And I've made many mistakes this year, and you know, every time I get in this car, I'm learning, and the day that I stop learning is the day I need to hang it up, because I'm not, you know, invested in it anymore.
You mentioned what it means just for you and your team to get that 50th number one qualifier, but what does it mean to you personally to reach such an achievement, to really solidify yourself as one of the greatest draggers, not just of all time, but especially in the female category as well, with the likes of Shirley Muldowney on that list?
Thank you very much. It just 50. It seems like an impossible number, and to have that in my career, my career started, and my rookie season was 2013, and to have 50 in that, you know, to be able to accomplish that is huge, and it's something I'm very proud of. Again, when we were creeping in on it, just hearing the number 50, like, wow, we've really done that. And like I said, the cool thing is it was a collective thing. It wasn't just done with one team, it was done with so many teams, and, you know, so many different crew chiefs who, you know, I'll always, you know, look up to those old crew chiefs. There are other places, you know, in the industry, but they all taught me things along the way that I still use to this day. So I'm very thankful to them that they're a part of that whole, you know, my whole career in getting that 50.
So that is going to wrap up our video here for Saturday's coverage of the Dallas NHRA Texas Fall Nationals. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the action coming up tomorrow as we recap the end of the NHRA Texas Fall Nationals. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment down below who you think is going to win come Sunday afternoon, as well as some of your championship picks for Pomona. Follow me on all social media pages down below, Mighty Mac 03 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And until Sunday night, this has been Mighty Mac. We'll see you next time.